It's still a couple months away, but it'll be coming.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 12th regular meeting of Walpole Select Board. It's now 7 o'clock, the posted time for our meeting. I call the meeting to order. Let's all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first appointment tonight is a public hearing which has been advertised to start at 7:05, so I want to wait until 7:05 to open that public hearing. In the meantime, if pleasure of the board, I'd like to move up the Jennifer LaFleur appointment if we could.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yep.
So we have Jennifer LaFleur here to be talk to us about becoming a member of the Veteran Services Committee. Jennifer, if you'd come up to the podium, that'd be awesome. Thank you for being here tonight and willing to volunteer. Maybe just take 20 seconds and tell us a little bit about yourself.
20 seconds. All right. I am Walpole resident, grew up here, class of 87. Moved away, came back. My folks are still in the same house that I grew up in East Walpole. I have a lot of military and first responders in my family, and great respect and appreciation for them. One of the things that I want to be able to give back, and this seems like a really great opportunity. I'm a member of the JWCW as well. I volunteer at the VA, and it's one of my favorite days, every day that I'm there. So happy to be a part of the
Well, again, thank you. First of all, thank you for your service, but thank you for being willing to serve here in the town as well. You know, we run on volunteers and need people like yourself, so we really appreciate you being willing to do this. Any questions for Jennifer?
No, thanks for moving back.
Thank you.
Thanks for volunteering.
Thank you for volunteering.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jennifer LaFleur to the Veteran Services Committee.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 5-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate
you.
it. Okay. We still got a couple minutes to go, so let's see, what else could we do here?
Some of the stuff under the public hearing, like the contract or anything.
Sure. You want to, Jim, you want to just hit the contract?
Bid contract number 25-07, which is evaluations of real estate consultant services. Dennis has gone forward and solicited proposals for that one, and so I recommend favorable action to award it to valuation services to real estate consultants based in North Andover, Massachusetts.
I'm sorry, let's jump in. How often do we do that?
We do it every 3 years, right?
Evening. This is the contract that we're going to need in order to comply with the state for the 5-year evaluation of personal property.
Every 5 years we do?
Every 5 years.
And when is it due? Do you know?
Sorry?
When is it due? When does it have to be completed by?
We're starting in
It's every 5 years.
every 5 years.
Okay.
And we're starting for fiscal 2025. 26. Sorry.
Got it. Thanks.
Any questions on that topic? Could I have a motion, please?
Yeah, motion to award bid contract 2025-07 valuation services to Real Estate Consultants, Inc.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Okay, it's now 7:05, so we will open a public hearing for the tax classification determination of the residential factor for the tax rate. So could I have a motion to open?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0. We're now in a public hearing. So Jack, I'm going to turn it over to you to step us through the presentation that you have before we discuss and take a vote.
Okay.
So, thank you.
All right. You have, everybody has the packet, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'd ask that you turn to, it's not a numbered page, but it starts at tax rate classification hearing, fiscal 25, 12 November 24. This kind of sums up what people ask. How do we determine, how is it determined what you pay in taxes? And there are really 3 things that are involved. One is the valuation of the property, which is the responsibility of the Board of Assessors. One is the amount of money to be raised, which is the responsibility of town meeting, with all sorts of input as we go through the process. And the third is this step, which is the classification hearing, which is if you choose, how much do you choose to shift the tax burden from residential to commercial and industrial? With those three things decided, then we can go ahead and determine what the tax rate is, and then you can go ahead and multiply the tax rate by the valuation as certified by the state, and that's how someone determines what their taxes are. So that basically sums up the whole, a year-long process. This is one step in a year-long process that starts in January and ends the last week in December when the tax bills actually go out. It's a very important step because it's a policy matter that affects how much people are going to pay in taxes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip through some of the pages, point out some of the things that are important to understand, some things that may be different this year than it has been in the past. We'll make a recommendation and then answer any questions that you have, okay?
Thank you.
So if you go to page 2, talks about the shift. What it is under Massachusetts state law, you're allowed to shift some of the tax burden from residential to commercial industrial, okay? It's usually expressed as a percentage, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, whatever it is like that. It's actually, you're going to wind up voting on what they know as the residential factor, which is the weighted reciprocal of the shift, okay? In Walpole, we have kind of two scenarios. One scenario is if we went with a single tax rate, and if we went with a single tax rate for 2025, then that single tax rate would be 1334. All right? And that, by a single tax rate, I mean the same tax rate for both commercial, industrial, personal property, and residential. With a split tax rate, which we have right now, if we were to keep it the same shift of 1.30, all right, the tax rate for residential would be 1284. Okay? That's a difference of $393 for the average residential property in Walpole. Okay? If you go to page 3 quickly, it's a table that shows the percentages of property in Walpole in the different categories. What's important, I want you to look at the first line, residential, okay? It's 88.75%. Okay? That's up. Values of residential properties over the last year, 2 years have increased faster than commercial and industrial. But think about that for a second. What we're saying is almost 89% of the property values in Walpole are in residential properties. Only 11% in commercial, industrial, and personal property. That's higher than it's been, that's lower on the commercial side than it's been in years. Usually we've been running around 13%. On page 4, this breaks it out a little bit differently, but I think it shows it just very well. Okay, again, you get the 88.75%. If you don't have the shift, with the shift, it'll be down to about 85.38% of residential. On page 5, this is a little bit of a discussion on new growth and overrides. What's important is new growth. If you think about what we can raise by property taxes, it's very simple. It's what we raised last year, plus 2.5%, plus new growth. And what's new growth? New growth is new construction. It is an increase. It is not an increase in value because of inflation or because the market values are going up. It's because of construction. So so right now, we've had the taxation that we would realize from new growth is $768,339. Overrides, the total debt exclusion for overrides for this year is $4.5 million and change. On page 7, this is something that everybody always asks, what do we have for debt exclusion? And this is the outstanding debt that is being funded this year. Beginning with, from 2010, the library construction, all the way to the new middle school. Okay. On page 8, this is just a summary. Sorry. On page 8, this is just a summary of how we're raising the money, okay, in the different categories. Then we go to page 12, and this shows what the impact would be for different shifts, starting with a single rate with no shift 1.0 to our current rate shift of 1.30, and all the way up to 1.50, which is the maximum that you can go without special permission. Okay. For the current rate of 1.30, the residential factor would be 0.9620. All right. The residential tax rate would be 1284. The commercial industrial tax rate would be 1462. Page 13 is one that we always like to take a look at. This shows what the actual tax rates would, what the tax will be for different shifts. If you go ahead and look at the middle one, middle column, which says percent shift, we have a current one of 1.30, but it shows what the tax rate would be, and the difference between last year and this year. So if we were to stay with the same shift of 1.30, the average value house in Walpole is $784,202. The tax rate would be $1,284. The tax bill would be $10,069. And the difference between last year and this year would be $358, which would be an increase of 3.68. Okay. Now, if you go ahead to page 17, this shows what the impact would be on the commercial and industrial properties. And again, if you go ahead to the 1.30 line in the middle, all right, for commercial properties, the commercial properties would go up $602, and the industrial properties would go down slightly by $95. What's interesting about this, and I have to point this out, is that if you look at every change, sorry, let me put it this way. If you look at the difference between the changes in the residential versus commercial industrial, every dollar that's saved on commercial, that's saved by residential, on the commercial, they have to pay $10 more. The impact on commercial is significant. On industrial, it's $8 more, and that's higher than it's been in the past. And that's simply because the residential property values are going up faster. So if you're thinking about, well, we need to save money, we need to have an impact, and we need to reduce the taxes on the residential, that's fine, but think of the impact that's going to happen on the commercial industrial. Every dollar that you save on the average home, residential home in Walpole, will result in a $10 increase on the commercial and an $8 increase on the residential. One thing that we're always asked, if you go to page 19, who are the largest taxpayers in Walpole? They're listed here, 1 through 10. NSTAR, the utility, is at $127 million. Going down to Walmart, which is $16 million and change. What's interesting about this, though, is if you look at this, of the 10 top paying taxpayers in Walpole, 5 are residential. And then finally, page 23. This is a history of what we've paid in taxes and the increases and so forth like that, and the percentages. And one of the things, if you look at the top for 2025, if you look at the change in the residential, okay, versus the others, it's not in line with what's happened over the last year. We are basically it's a smaller percentage, so, the increase. So, the board has gone over this information quite carefully, and we have taken a vote, and we're going to recommend that we keep the same factor of 1.30. And if I can answer any questions, I'll be happy to. We've got the whole board here, and plus our assessor and deputy assessor, so I think we can just about address anything that you might want.
So let me start by, first of all, thank you for being here tonight and for preparing this package of information. This is always one of those interesting things that we do every year. We get to see all of this data and what has changed over the course of the last year. And you give us an amazing amount of information to sift through, and it's very, very helpful to understand the dynamics of the various components and how we should be thinking about this shift. So I appreciate the fact that you did that. I also appreciate you being here tonight and taking us through the materials, and that your board has taken a vote. I understand, based on what you just said, that you've voted to keep the shift at the 1.3. So thank you for doing all of that and bringing that to us.
It's very much a team effort. We've got a great
Yeah, it
team.
is.
And it's not something, this year-long process, which will start in January when we review the, after the mailing of the tax bills at the end of December. That's the start of the process, and it'll go right straight through to December.
So I don't really have any questions. I spent quite a bit of time with this. You've done a nice job summarizing it, and everything you said I fully understand. I think there are a couple things that are worth reiterating. One is that we have adopted a shift of 1.3. I think we started that last year. We moved it up a little bit from where it was. You're recommending that we maintain that this year. The important part of that is that this represents a savings on the residential taxpayer of $393 on the average tax bill. It also represents an increase on the commercial side of $5,578, and on the industrial side of $1,122. So your point about every dollar that we shift from residential magnifies or multiplies onto the commercial and industrial is spot on. It shows up in those numbers. So from where I sit, and having evaluated all this stuff, I'm in agreement with the recommendation to hold the shift constant. I would open it up for the board for further questions or comments.
I'll just start by agreeing that this is one of the more interesting topics that we address every year. This is, I think, my 5th time participating in the public hearing. I always take it very seriously because I know that what we do here is important for the residential taxpayers and the commercial taxpayers, and so we don't want to push too far in one direction or in the other. So first I'll acknowledge that, and when I read this packet, which is always filled with great information, I always probably learn something new. And I'm always looking at it with the eye of how can we as a town encourage our tax bills on the residential side to go down without having to shift that $10 10-to-1 ratio. And so I'm looking for, I'm looking at the residential percentage increasing with the valuations up to 88.75% of the tax levy. So it's kind of going in that higher percentage, and what I want to see is that actually number come down, I think, and have a higher percentage of commercial on the commercial side, so that we can shift it without creating too much of a burden on the commercial side. Because I look at towns like Needham that has a 1.75 shift that's probably not noticed because it's spread out over some really big taxpayers that can, publicly traded companies that can sort of handle that 1.75 shift, and it's spread over a large number of on the commercial side. And you look at Sharon, they can't really afford to do any shift at all because they don't have much of a tax base, and it would be a huge burden on that commercial side. So it's really just a comment on how important it is of a conversation. When we shifted last year, last year we shifted to 1.3. I think it was 1.275 before. Is that right? I was very hesitant. I recall voting against it. I think I was maybe the only one, and that's okay. I mean, I understand that change has to happen. That was the first time in a long time that we had made any sort of a change to the shift. So I'm glad. I'll just wrap up my comments. I'm glad that you're not recommending a further shift, and I agree with your recommendation to keep it where it is.
Well, the thing you have to be careful about is if you go up, it's extraordinarily difficult to go down.
That's right.
Because the impact on the residential when you go down is huge.
Yeah.
So
It's a tough sell.
That's why you want to,
Be very hesitant.
you have to take that under careful consideration.
I agree. Yeah. Mark?
Yeah, I would just say, I agree with your recommendation and the recommendation of the EDC to stay at the 1.3 shift, which is, I came into the meeting having spent a bunch of time reading through the document, feeling like that was the right place to be, stay where we are, just like last year. So thanks for all the effort you put in to give us the documents again that we could dig through. And I like data, so it's always good to dig through the data. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just add that I agree with the 1.3 again, and would echo what all the other board members have said in their thanks to the work that you put into this. And quite honestly, for residents who do have questions about it, there's so much information in this package, and so to the extent that we can communicate to residents and give them the information they need to understand how this works is just hugely helpful, right, and builds trust in what we're trying to do as a community. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all this information. I as well agree with to keeping it the shift to that 1.3. I mean, that was a change last year, and it took us a number of years before we were comfortable making that change. So I think it's good to go ahead and just continue with that. Seeing the number of 88% is residential, like reiterate Glenn said, hopefully someday that will come down, and we'll have some more commercial coming into town to help with that.
Thanks. So we are in a public hearing, so I'd like to open up now for anyone else who would like to comment before we vote. Dick.
Good evening, Richard Zaccaro, Board of Assessor member. First of all, I want to thank Dennis and his hard-working staff. It's a lot of information that he put together. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. Your job's not easy, especially in today's times. We're all feeling a burden of the economy. Prices of gas have gone up, clothing, everything, insurance, food particularly. So there's very little we can do as individuals in this community about that. That's at a national level, and hopefully they'll be addressed and things will improve. However, we can help affect the tax rate for the individuals of this town. Personally, I would have liked to see the shift go up slightly more to give the residents a break. I mean, we're rapidly approaching, the average home will be assessed for $800,000. I believe it's $784,000 now. So translated, that's over $10,000 per individual on an average home. I've discussed before with you, I think, a few solutions. I know we have a lot of surplus cash available, what's called unrestricted cash. I know you have priorities where that money should go, and you all have different opinions, but I would suggest if you have a lot of surplus that's funded by the taxpayers, to give them a break by lowering the tax levy from 2.5%, slightly lower. I mean, when the Commonwealth of Mass and the Governor Baker they had a huge surplus of $1 billion, if you recall, a few years ago, and he gave everyone a $750 tax refund. If you go into a business and they overcharge you, what do? They give you a refund or a credit. Mr. Moffitt, you can relate to that, and you have your own business. And I also urge you strongly to help the elderly citizens of this town with some tax relief, long overdue tax relief. Some communities, and I know our executive director of our office, he lives in Rhode Island, but his town, they freeze, once you hit 65, they freeze the tax rate and assessed value of the individuals in that town. Now, whether or not we can do it, I know the Commonwealth's working on some tax laws right now that will allow the local communities themselves to bring in some additional tax savings. But I strongly urge you to take a look at some of these things. And I volunteered in the past, and I still volunteer my personal time. I'd be more than willing to sit down with you. I mean, I serve the Board of Assessors, and again, I think we're all on the same and common denominator. We want to do as much as we can as public servants, and we took our oath of office to help the people as much as we can. So I would recommend you maybe pursue some alternative solutions. And I know there's several RTMs, a couple in the room that have approached you before with some similar thoughts. So once again, it's not an easy job we all have today, but I appreciate the time again, and I would appreciate you to consider some of these alternatives. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you tonight.
Appreciate it, Mr. Scarrow. Anyone else? Okay, they're being done. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Sure, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 5-0. We're now out of the public hearing. Could I have a motion on the shift?
Yep. Motion to adopt a shift of 1.3% with residential factor of .9620 for fiscal year 2025.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0. We have a couple of other things to
Sorry,
just.
Jim, there's just one more motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we'll
I'm sorry.
do that if you don't mind.
I'm sorry, you're right. I missed it, yeah.
Motion to authorize the town administrator to submit the results of this hearing on behalf of the Select Board to the Massachusetts Division of Local Services Gateway System.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Thank you, Aoife.
Should I do the other motion since it's sort of tied in?
Yeah, let's keep on going.
I'm going to make a motion to expand the maximum amount a qualified volunteer can earn from $1,500 to $2,000 in property tax relief.
Second.
So before we vote, just, Dick, to your point, this is one of the things we can do, and we'll take a vote on it in a moment to expand the tax credit on the work-off, and of course, other programs as well. And so we are very sensitive to the points you made, and I think this is one way that we can address that. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Okay, then we have one more thing to talk about under this category. We have an amended and restated street betterment assessment order for Eastland Circle. So Jim, you want to just step us
Sure.
through that?
This is a request of the residents, a few of them that live on Eastland Circle. You may recall, I think it was one of your meetings in October, you voted to do the betterment assessment on there. The residents all spoke. They'd like to have it set up a little bit differently and divided equally among the 4 residents who live on that lot. So that will be $19,310 per lot. And that was their request. We're looking to honor that request and move this forward.
And actually, the original request was a different way of thinking about it.
Based on frontage.
Yeah, so this is a more even way.
Yeah, and they're all comfortable with it.
Good, okay. Questions for Jim? Can I have a motion, please?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that pursuant to the vote under Article 32 of May 1st, 2023, Annual Town Meeting, Chapter 433 of the Town Bylaws, and General Law, Chapter 80, and the petition submitted by all the owners of lots abutting Eastland Circle to amend the prior assessments made by the Select Board on October 8th, 2024, to now assess roadway betterments for the improvement made to Eastland Circle equal among all said lot owners, as set forth in the betterment assessment order, to execute and record said order, and to certify said amounts to the Board of Assessors for commitment to the tax collector.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 5-0. Okay, that concludes the work that we've got under the public hearing part of our agenda. So Jack and group, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate all your hard work.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We have another public hearing scheduled for 7:30, so we'll go into that now. This is a vote for the transfer of an on-premise all alcoholic beverage license from 204 Partners, Inc. to 202-204 Wash Operating LLC DBA, the 204 Washington at 204 Washington Street. So could I have a motion to open the public
I'll
hearing?
make a
please?
motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0. We're now in a public hearing. Chris, I assume you're here on this, and you want to
Yes,
step us
sir.
through what the request is?
Yes, Christopher Timpson, I'm here on behalf of 202 to 204 Wash Operating LLC, and this is Neve Jacobs. She's going to be the principal of the entity. So as you said, this is a transfer of the 204 restaurant license. I'm sure you folks are familiar with the owners here. The Jacobs have other restaurants in Walpole, Norwood, and other places around this vicinity. This is a restaurant that Neve will manage. She's planning to be there, as you can see from the application, 35 hours a week. She knows how to manage a restaurant. She's been running the financials of the Napper Tandy Group for a while now, and she's going to step out and do little more hands-on with this one. So she knows you folks want her there 35 hours to be overseeing, and I've talked to her about that. She's tip certified, so we've got that squared away, and they plan on having their servers all tip certified. Right now, in terms of how they're going to run this restaurant, they don't have everything, buttoned down. However, it's going to be run similarly to their other Napa Tandy restaurants. So that's the type of menu and atmosphere that you'll see. No change to the physical size or dimensions of the restaurant. So everything will stay the same in that sense. The hours of operation that they're looking for are all the available hours that the town would permit. You can see that they do have a lease in place. The Jacobs have another entity that's purchasing the real estate, and that lease will be valid once this license transfers, and they will make these purchases. So I think that's basically the information that you folks are looking for. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but we're asking that you look favorably upon this transfer.
So thank you for being here, and speaking as a member of the board, I think it's good to hear that we're able to move this process forward and transact this so that we keep that restaurant or a restaurant in that location, which has been in existence for many, many, many years. And so I was pleased to see this when it arrived on our doorstep. And I don't have any questions other than to just wish you the best of luck as you go forward with the new restaurant, and look forward to coming by and seeing what you're up to. So let me open it up to the board. Any other questions for the board? Glenn?
I just want to ask a question, but I want to make sure I ask it in a way that comes across as being supportive of your endeavor. So I'm just curious about parking and if you have parking, and if not, no problem, but what are your thoughts on, I'm thinking about on-street parking, and my conversation is heading toward, at some point, be thinking about ways that maybe the town can help with on-street parking if there's not enough already. I'm thinking up toward Bird Park or down toward East Walpole. I can't picture exactly what kind of line spaces there are, but I know there's the daycare across the street, and they have parking that wouldn't be used at night. So, there's some available parking. I don't know if you have any parking on site, but it's just a question about parking, if you know.
Well, those are great thoughts. In terms of, the restaurant has operated for years and years, so there's the parking that's kind of always been available, but I'm sure in terms of growing the business, the Jacobs would be very interested in whatever they could work together with the town to obtain more parking. Because
we could look at it for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely a key to success, is having accessibility, to the restaurant.
Thanks. Mark?
I'd just like to say, I'm glad to see that you're going to take over the 204. That was always a very nice restaurant, and I know it's in capable hands with you, and, it'll be very successful in the future, so thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
No, I would welcome that, a restaurant will continue down there, somewhere close to my neighborhood, so somewhere that we could walk down and go to, so this is exciting, I think.
Thank you, Ally. Okay, this is a public hearing, so let me open it up to the public now. Is there anyone here who'd like to comment before we close the hearing? Doesn't look like it, so could I have a motion to close the hearing, please?
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 5-0. Public hearing is now
I'll make
closed.
a motion to approve the transfer of the on-premises all alcohol beverage license from 204 Partners, Inc. to 202-204 Wash. I don't know if that's Washington or Wash. I assume it's
Wash,
Washington.
yeah.
Wash Operations, LLC.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0.
I'll make another motion to approve the request of the 204 Washington. This should be the new name here, right?
So the 204 Washington is the new DBA.
Got it, okay, sorry. Motion to approve the request of the 204 Washington for a common victualer's license at 204 Washington Street.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 5-0. Congratulations and best of luck.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say in closing, Aoife was so helpful. You guys really have a gem in her, and you're lucky to have her.
It's nice of
I was
you to
lucky
say
be
that.
able to work with her.
We
Thank
certainly agree with you, and it's nice of you to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. We're a little ahead of 7:40, which is the open forum, so I'm going to move us on to new business, and what I'd like to do is go out of order on the new business, because I know we have a bunch of folks here from the food pantry, so rather than make you wait while we go through the other new business, if the board is okay, I'd like to move up number 6 to number 1. Okay, so that's what we'll do. Bill, if you could come up for a second, let's set a little context here. So, first of all, thank you for being here. Walpole Food Pantry, of course, is an organization that provides food to residents of Walpole and beyond, and frankly does a marvelous job with that, and the board is very supportive of your endeavors. You have been operating on Wednesdays your distribution process, which is one aspect of your operation, out of the Walpole High School for some period now. And as we have, as your operation has grown, and as we are now at the point where we're starting the construction at the high school, we need to find a new location. You have sent us a request asking us to use the South Walpole Field Complex, which we're happy to accommodate. The Walpole Fields Complex is currently, or will be shortly, undergoing some paving, as been approved by town meeting in the most recent round. And so when that's in place, you'll be able to run your operation out of the Walpole, the South Walpole Fields Complex. One of the things that had occurred to us as we were making this transition is that we need to formalize the agreement that we have between the food pantry and the town as you're using the town facility. And so that's what we're really here to talk about tonight. So you have nicely provided us a request for that. So the board is taking that request up today. And so why don't I pause and let you offer any thoughts that you may have on the request. Okay.
Sure. First of all, thank you all for all your help. We did request that you expedite the paving. We went up and we tried to do the best we could to use the site, and we felt it was not suitable, it was unsafe. We searched other sites, we haven't come up with anything. So expediting the paving will greatly help this year rather than next year. So it looks like we have, my understanding is they did start the paving today. Hopefully, it's going to take about 3 weeks, I think, 3-4 weeks. So, Jim, I think you said it was by Christmas. We're hopefully getting in there. There can be, delays with weather and other problems, but if everything goes well, we should be able to get in there in about a month. So it's a long time. This affects a lot of people, and we've found, some of the volunteers even, are we going to get back volunteering, or you want us to go somewhere else to volunteer? So the sooner we can get in there, the better. So again, I appreciate the board appreciates you expediting the paving.
So we, as you point out, have done what we can to work with the contractor to move the paving along. And we don't have an actual end date, as you and I discussed earlier today, but we expect it to be in the weeks ahead. What I want to make sure of is that when we get to the point where the complex is now ready for you to use it, that we don't now get tripped up by not having an agreement in place. So that's our purpose in coming together tonight, and what I would like to recommend, and I'll ask the board for input in a moment, but I'd like to recommend that we ask Jim to work with you to get a license agreement in place over the course of the next couple weeks, so that when we get to the point when the facility is available, there's not any further holdup because of that agreement. So let me pause and open it up to the board for comments or questions. Anyone?
I would just say, I certainly support the food pantry. I think Jim has done a great job working with the food pantry, and anything we can do to help that. Coming to the holidays of Thanksgiving, Christmas, it can be a harder time for families who do have food insecurity. So, it is important that you guys are up and operating as soon as we, can get everything settled.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're here tonight just to sort of show support for what you're working on. I think there's a lot of details that need to be hashed out, and we'll do that. I don't know if we'll do it right now, but we'll do it over the course of the next few weeks. I think we have a little bit of time, and we'll get you going as soon as possible. I think we're here to be supportive, and so I'm expressing support, and let us know how we can help, and let's do it.
So that all said, I'd like to ask Jim to work with you to get the license agreement in place. I know, and you and I talked about this a little bit this morning, there are some elements that we want to make sure are part of that agreement that involve the insurance, that involve the dumpster, that involve the storage shed, that involve other aspects of the logistics of the site, and how we're going to, put that into an agreement that we are all able to then stand behind. So
Right.
I don't see anything that will get in the way of that. I think this will move along rather quickly, and we'd ask Jim to do that. So,
I'm ready to meet as soon as possible.
okay.
So I'll start working with town council tomorrow morning on, I'm sure they have a boilerplate license agreement, and get it drafted, send it over to food pantry folks to work through a draft and bring it back before the select board, likely in early December.
Okay, great. Bill, anything else before we wrap?
I think Aoife's great, too.
Can't go wrong with that.
It's good to hear. Bill, thank you, and thank you for everything you and your group are doing. You've got a good
These are
contingent
all
here.
board members. We have 4 board members here, so I'd like to thank them for coming out tonight.
As would I. You guys are doing yeoman's work, and we really appreciate it. So thank you for being here.
Yep, thank you all.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're past 7:40, open forum. Is there anyone here who would like to speak at open forum? Okay, being none, let's move on to the rest of the new business. So we have relocation of a pole for NSTAR. Jim, you want to just touch on
Sure,
that?
and Carl, if you don't mind coming up.
Carl, thank you.
I know the owner of 979 Main Street, I see him in back there, Dimitri is here, and the board would like to speak to him. He's here, and I'm ready to talk to you. So basically, what we have a request here from Carl Baldoff, our town engineer, to relocate a pole, number 1229, at the corner of High Plain and of Dupree Street. Pretty standard request here, and Carl's lined everything up. We're pretty much good to go with Eversource, and anything really to add?
We have. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Jim, Aoife. The request is actually related to the 40B development.
Sorry, my bad. 979.
So are we doing 979 or Dupee Street? Dupee Street.
This is Dupee Street, right?
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
I
anyway,
That's okay.
we verified the location of the pole that Eversource is requesting, and we're good with it. But once again, it's actually related to that pole has to move. There are long deliberations during the ZBA hearings for that 40B about access to Dupee Street. So the pole is essentially required to improve the access for public safety vehicles there. It's well within the right-of-way, and it's not on top of utilities, so we have no objection to the pole moving, and recommend it be approved.
Great. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it.
Can I apologize?
Sure.
I saw Dimitri in the back, and my mind is on him.
That's okay. Okay. Could I have a
Somebody else
motion?
is paying to move the pole, I assume, if I can just ask that question, right? The developer, the applicant,
Not
Town.
sure, but it's not us.
not the town.
Not like that at all. It's not our-
Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the request of NSTAR Electric Company for the grant of location to relocate one existing pole, number 12/29, within the town layout of High Plain Street.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Carl, thank you.
Thank you. I'll stay in close proximity for
Okay,
979
thank you.
Main.
Sorry to get ahead of myself. So the second request up here is for 979 Main Street, a vote to secure for the bond security within a public way. The value is $40,000. It's to install a 4-inch domestic water and fire service line for the multi-use building getting constructed at 979 Main Street. Carl had brought this forward towards the end of last week-ish. I had reached out to Dimitri just to confirm this is what they're looking for, also to just get a brief update on the project, and that's one of the reasons why I had asked Dimitri here. Pleased to report that he told me last week they're trending in a good direction with that project. If you drive by, you can see the progress made there. So any general questions, or?
So I do want to talk about the building, and we are in a second, but let's take care of this piece of business first. So I think in the drawing, it's a little bit hard to follow here, but it appears as though, and I'll just hold it up, Carl, it's this red line, that's the area we're talking about, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so does that actually, how far into the roadway does that actually go?
Actually, not very far. Most of the work is on the sidewalk. Its objective, of course, is to go from the existing water main, which is somewhere right around the gutter line. So there'll be a little bit of opening in Main Street, but it's a complicated area. There's tree grates, there's trees, traffic signal control, a gas line, just about everything else you can think of out there. But there's enough room to be able to work. We've talked about trying to maintain pedestrian traffic. It's going to be careful work with a small excavator and that sort of things, possibly some plates. Normally, we wouldn't come to you for a normal water service, but this is abnormal, so to speak. So anyway, that's why we've asked for the security. The security will be provided by the contractor, Jones Contracting. They have no problem with it. But under our rules, you're the ones to hold security. So we came down here with a little bit of a late request. If you grant it, we'll get the bond from it, and if all other things are clear, and there are still some outstanding issues with water and sewer connection fees, and as you will probably discuss, the scaffolding and whatnot that's been in the sidewalk for some time. But if you approve this request, it'll allow us to be able to issue a road opening and potentially do the work beginning Monday next week. Not us to do it, but for the contractor, which at this time of year is key, provided all other things are cleared up and out of the way.
And so is it gonna block off that sidewalk while the work is done? It sure looks like it.
At some point,
Yeah.
but there's room enough. We've actually discussed moving the staging over a little bit, not the scaffolding, but the protective fence, and that'll allow for some room to get by, during one phase. The idea to be able to keep it open as much as possible.
Okay.
So, but that's part of the function of the detail. There'll be police detail there. If the sidewalk is going to be closed up, then the detail can assist the pedestrians. Obviously, we're downtown, heavy pedestrian flow, so that's a big
Right.
concern. But, we think we've got some good people involved with this, so we think it'll work out okay.
And what about traffic flow? I assume there'll be some disruption in the traffic?
As little as possible. That's not a place to play around with
No.
traffic flow.
That's right.
So we're hoping that we'll steal a little bit of that lane and still basically maintain normal flows. And if we have to get out into it a bit more, do it during the off-peak time of day. Not at night. This will be day work unless we really run into trouble.
Okay.
So, I think it can be pulled off. We did similar tricky connection out, not similar, but another one on 173 High Plain. And that worked out very well, although some of it was done at night. That was also done with the same contractor. So there's good skills applied here.
Okay, and the amount of the bond is 40,000.
Correct.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Carl on this? Glenn?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would necessarily take a long time to do the work itself, but it sounds like there's probably some lead-up things that need to happen, the connection fees, for example. Is there an order of operations here? The fees need to be paid first, for example, before the work is done and the connection takes place?
That's correct. We don't want the connection to occur without those fees being paid.
Okay.
And there's definitely an order of operations. There always is.
Okay. So that'll just take place, and then the bond will be released,
Yeah, but we'll have to come down here for you to release that. But we anticipate that this work should be buttoned up, and maybe that release will come in January.
Got it.
We don't intend to hold this a long time, so this should all be buttoned up, and like I say, hopefully, originally it was scheduled for 4 days. If it goes good, maybe it'll be 4 days.
Sure.
But right now, the plan was, we didn't start this week because of these order of operations, as you refer to, so hopefully next week, next Monday.
Okay.
Weather looks good, all things look good.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
I'll make a motion to set the security bond at $40,000 for work to be conducted within the public way at 979 Main Street.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it. Dimitri, if we could have a couple seconds of your time, I just want to get a quick update. I know we're coming rapidly up against what I think is December 3rd? December 3rd is the cutoff for the scaffolding on Glenwood, and so wanted to get an update on where you stand in terms of the overall construction effort, and you're going to be able to make that date.
We are, and thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. First of all, thank you to all the board members for giving me the extension. Last time I was here, actually, so the roof is completely on the building, and the roofing is already all applied. The siding work has actually already started as well. We've sort of made some adjustments around the windows. The windows here are all unique and custom sizes for this particular building, and the windows, they fell a little bit behind, but they are ready. As of today, they were already in Chicago. They were coming from California. They're being shipped to us. They're already in Chicago. We're anticipating them by week's end. We'll be installing the side of Glenwood first, and then we'll continue wrapping up the siding strategically on the Glenwood side in order to finish that side first. And we will be deconstructing the staging sort of in chronological order, starting with the Glenwood side of the building, where all that will come down. It'll take about a day and a half, and then we will work our way around. And I mentioned to Mr. Johnson that I anticipate to have all the staging down by the end of December, completely, all the siding to be done. We've already started some work on the inside of the property as well. All the framing on the inside is already complete, so it took significantly longer than we anticipated, than everyone anticipated, but we are making progress. You know, my anticipated date to complete this building is going to be sometime between March and April of 2025. And I think that once we start working inside, we can work pretty efficiently and effectively. I'm also operating at 173 High Plains Street. We're pretty close to moving to insulation already at that property. Thank you to Carl. We have the same contractor. We did all the outside connection, all the utility work. That took almost 2 weeks. We did a lot of night work there, and we had a really good experience with this site contractor. We're going to be using the same one at 979 Main Street, and once these connections are connected, then we can really start buzzing. Once those windows are installed, we can really start buzzing on the inside of the property as well.
Great, well, that's good to hear. Just so that we're absolutely clear, so Carl or Jim, anything that you've heard from Dimitri, is there any concern from anything you've heard from Dimitri tonight?
From my perspective, it's consistent with what he's told me the last few times we've talked. So, no, Carl?
And so when I think about December 3rd and the cutoff of December 3rd, taking down the staging on Glenwood is within that agreement, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so will you then be taking the staging down across the front, or are you going to go the other way?
The other way.
The other way. Okay,
from the rear, and then sort of work my way around.
And so the front will be the last part of the staging that you'll take down.
That's right. It's the most intricate of all the details, the front facade of the building. So it's going to take a little bit more with some detail molding work and so forth. That's really going to be the presence of the building and the downtown. So we're going to spend a little bit extra time while we have a little bit of that convenience. The staging makes all the difference in the world when the men are able to access all those spots, you know, in a convenient way versus working off ladders and or lifts.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. Well, from where I sit, I'm certainly looking forward to you getting the work completed. I know it has been a battle for you on a number of fronts, and I know you've been working hard with Carl to work through many, many, many aspects of this building, and I appreciate the collaboration that we're having on this, and hopefully we'll land it in the, what'd you say, March, April timeframe?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, questions from the board or comments?
Thanks for coming out, I appreciate it.
Thank you to the board again.
Appreciate it, Dimitri, thank you.
My only thing, if anything comes up before the 3rd, keep us in the loop.
And just to, that date is a date that I've committed to, December 3rd, but please, it will be literally, you know, December 2nd, December 3rd, just because of the Thanksgiving week. Those are union contractors that erect that staging and so forth. It's not, I have them on the schedule, but Thanksgiving week is not a week that I should be ready, plus minus Thanksgiving, but we've committed for that Monday, Tuesday. So you will see that deconstruction on that Monday, Tuesday, which is December 2nd and December 3rd. Okay. The staging will come down, and then the Jersey barriers will follow suit. That's another contractor that takes those back.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Appreciate it, Dimitri. Carl, thank you for all your efforts here. Appreciate it. Okay, so where are we here? So we're on to the number 3, discussion and vote of the FY26 living adjustments. Jim?
Sure. So these next 2 items are more or less personnel related. The first item up is the FY26 living adjustments recommendation. As you may recall, we have a bunch of factors we review. One of them is the consumer price index. We look at the consumer price index for Boston, the Northeast, and we compare it over the last 12 months. We look at the Social Security, what have they been doing. We also look at the comparable wages for in-town unions all 6 of them on the town side. We also look at the school department, and then we reach out to other towns and get a sense of what they're doing. So we try to factor all that in and come up with some fair wages that keeps us competitive with the job market out there, other cities and towns, and also keeps us competitive so our current employees have less of an incentive to leave. So the recommendation here is a 1.5 split, which would be on July 1st and January 1st for an overall increase of 3%. Total estimated cost of that increase is $114,000. Again, it's consistent with some of the union splits that we've done over the last 2 years or so and going into the final year of most of the contracts here. So take any questions you may have. We're also looking to add a couple of positions, one of those positions being the adult services librarian, to change that, just the title a little bit, to also add the assistant town clerk. That was negotiated out of the contract, the last round of negotiations with the clerical union. This is more just a formalization of that. We're adding the public health nurse in the salary schedule. Currently, that position is an hourly employee. Melissa requested we move it over. We considered the request, and I think it's a fair request. She puts in a good amount of hours, keeps us consistent with the few public nurses that are out there in Norfolk County, and then add the position of program director to the salary schedule. You may recall last time Melissa was in there, that's that grant position that she got funded for 5 years. Want to add that on the schedule so we can go out and get someone in place once a position is hired.
Questions for Jim? Mark?
I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 26 salary schedule.
Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 500. Number 4,
Last
SB
item
contract.
related to personnel stuff is the DPW contract. This has been a long time in the making. Town meeting approved it last month, and I'm pleased to say that it's signed, sealed, delivered by the union and their representatives. And the payroll department's ready to go with all the retro pay that's involved in this one. It's complicated because it's almost a year and a half worth of retro pay, but I gotta say kudos to Joy, to Christine, to Donna. They all did a great job figuring this out, and at the end, everybody was on the same page as far as who's owed what, but it was pretty complicated, but good job to all.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. Well done. Questions for Jim on the contract? Mark?
I'll make a motion to sign the contract with AFSCME AFL-CIO State Council 93, Local 1957, Department of Public Works.
Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 5-0. Mark, go ahead and keep going.
Motion to open the spring 2025 town meeting warrant and close it on January 21st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Just send a discussion over that one, Mr. Chair. I would say up to this week, we're looking pretty good. We think we had, what, about 9 articles, Aoife-ish?
Yeah.
But I think Patrick Duchesne's and the zoning rewrite committee, to their credit, they have about 5 to 7 articles that they're looking to propose, and Carl might have a few minor items, specifically an easement for Pine Street to do that work, but it's a little bit bigger than this past town meeting, but not huge, but we're working.
And we may have one for the food pantry as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, okay. Any questions before we vote? Did we vote it? I mean,
We did vote,
We voted, yeah, so I jumped ahead of you, sorry. All right, so that wraps up the new business consent agenda.
How about a motion to approve the consent items as listed on the November 12th agenda?
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of October 22nd, 2024 as presented.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 5-0. Jim, Town Administrator's report.
Sure. Okay, just a few things. Joint meeting with the Finance Committee. Been working with the FinCom Chair to coordinate a meeting. You may recall, I think this is the 3rd year he's looking to do this, to have a meeting with DPW, police, and fire late November, early December, to talk about their departments, some of their upcoming needs. This is a good way of getting, especially some of the newer FinCom members, to get to know the chiefs and Rick, talk about what their departments do. So we're looking to schedule that. Likely it's trending maybe now towards early December. He's also looking to set something up with the select board and the school committee for the school department budget on a separate night. So once we hammer down some dates, I'll work with you, and then I'll work with the school committee chair and make sure we can get at least a quorum of the boards there on each night. So working through that. High school renovation, the contract with AFSCME has been signed. I sent out, actually I gave all the board members a copy of the attached memo that kind of outlines where this project's at, and there it is. And just an update on the overall budget for the project, and all the moving pieces. So the site work did start on 11/4. The fencing went up. If you go out to the snack shack at the high school, you'll see that it's up around there. They're putting in erosion controls this week, taking down some of the trees. We're going slow with this because there is a Thanksgiving Day game. We're mindful of that. It's going to be a little bit of a tight area, but we've been working with Ron Dowd, Principal Inbush, to make sure that there's access to the bathrooms and to the snack shack during the game. And then they're going to start going with the backfill and fine grading. We're moving the soils out there, specifically on that little old softball field right in front of the snack shack. And they're trending towards a mid-January excavation for the field house and starting that site work out there in January. We had a really productive meeting with the contractor, the architect, everyone. The room was filled with people over at the library, and they're ready to go. And they look like they're on the same page. Vertex has worked with them before, so looking forward to that. So just more or less an update as to where we stand with that project. Any questions? Okay.
Not for me. Anybody else? It's great work, Jim. Thank you.
It is great. And as it was previously mentioned, the SM LaRusso Fields, the site work did start this week on the prepping. They have to take out a bunch of gravel there, so that's going to take a couple weeks. I'm optimistic. It's all weather depending, 4 weeks plus or minus, but we're trending in the right direction on that one. So
that's good.
And we got a good contractor. It's the contractor we had who did all the work over this past summer. They're staying on for another year, which is great. And budgets, they're all due into Munis by November 22nd. And I'm still working through some of the budgets I'm responsible for, but we're going to have that in there and then start really going on things. I know the school department have kind of their own timeline, but I'll have a good sense of before Christmas where we stand budget-wise with everything. So, what the situation is. And last one, your next meeting's over at the Council on Aging to discuss the Bird Pond Dam. We tentatively have you posted for 6:45 in case there's any meeting business we need to attend to right before the meeting. But if there's nothing going on, we won't start until 7. But Eva and I will work with you and see if there's anything that needs to be dealt with.
Awesome. Okay. I understand, I wasn't able to attend this year due to a doctor's appointment, but I understand the veterans, the ceremony on the Common went extremely well.
Ian did a great job.
Kudos to
Ian.
His
featured speaker, the Veteran Services Committee. They're doing a great job. And I can't say enough good things about Ian. He's doing some really great work. He's got his certification. There's a request from the town of Sherborne to join our district, which will be pretty good. Patrick, myself, and Ian have been working through that. I think we'll have a proposal for you to consider in December, and which will allow us to also bring on an assistant for Ian to do some of the paperwork, so we have some backup controls in place. So it'll be good.
Yeah, no, he's doing a terrific job.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any questions for Jim or comments? Okay. I think that wraps us up. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 5-0. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We're now adjourned.